No other game series has epitomised the power of video game soundtracks more so than FIFA. Since they first started being included in FIFA 98, EA have turned what was primarily a licensing feature into a cornerstone of every installment since then. It helped pioneer the modern relationships between video games and soundtracks, something that EA have made key features of their other titles, as well as laying the groundwork for other game series to utilise. There really is no way to underestimate the significance of the FIFA soundtrack. Today, it is a remarkable force for musical discovery, and it's turned the phrase FIFA song into a musical descriptor itself. So what is it exactly that makes the FIFA soundtrack so good, and why has it become one of football's modern cultural touchstones? Personally, I think I'm in no better position to discuss this because I cannot stand FIFA. No disrespect to anyone who loves it whatsoever, not even in the slightest, okay? No disrespect at all. It's just that I cannot get along with it. I don't like the price tag. I don't like how infuriating it is. It's way too hard. I don't like Ultimate Team and all the microtransactions. We just don't get along with it, right? Now, for the record, and I mean this for the record, I have given it a fair try, okay? I had two friends in... I'm trying to sound like I'm not being very convincing here. I had two secondary school best friends who played it all the time, and I played against them quite a few times. And at one point, I bought a copy because I really thought I was on the cusp of getting into it. But my my playing hours are not convincing, shall we say. Plus, one of my flatmates had to quit playing it during the pandemic because it made him too angry. Like, it's not healthy. And yet, despite all of this, every time a new one comes out, I go and check out the soundtrack because it always provides this really fun, vibrant, energetic, rhythmic set of music. And it has done that pretty much every single year that I've been following those releases. As some of you will know, I'm on a bit of a personal journey with football at the moment, and I'm in the process of reclaiming it from the torrid experience I had as a teenager with it, which naturally meant that I had to buy a Football Manager over Christmas. And I wanted to have music to listen to whilst playing it that kind of matched the mood and captured the feel of football as a sport. And much as the countless songs and chants associated with different teams are very important, and the music used in marketing and programming related to football also helps to give it a sound, there is no true barometer for what the soundtrack of football should be, other than the FIFA soundtrack, which we know is the case because it is so widely celebrated and enjoyed. But what is the reason for its love and adulation from both FIFA players and wider communities as well? The obvious answer, of course, is that the music is just really good, and that EA consistently curates a perfect concoction of music to put in the game. There is an art form to great video game music, which allows it to gain way more emotional significance beyond just what those songs can do on their own, and that's because playing video games is an audio, visual, and physical experience. Consider what comes to mind when you think of a soundtrack or score to one of your favourite games. For me, I always go back to Skyrim, and I actually ended up getting back into it last year because a load of TikToks that I saw had used pieces from the score. The remarkable thing is though, it's not purely the game that comes to mind whenever I hear any of Jeremy Soule's pieces, but rather it's the nostalgia of playing it back when I was 14. It's that day that I spent something like 10 or 11 hours playing it because I was just that addicted. It's the excitement that existed around it within its community and across all sorts of online spaces, you know. It is way more than just a score for a video game. Treated independently, Soule's score for Skyrim is a masterpiece in terms of composition and world building that I will happily go on about for the rest of time if someone would just let me, but it's the fact that so much of its appeal comes from that attached context that makes it even better. I have no doubt that all of you watching this have video game scores that you hold in equally high regard and which have that same significance to you. Now, on the other hand, in this regard, soundtracks are a little bit different, because the songs are coming from other sources and as such will inherently carry wider appeal beyond just being used in the video game. But what's significant about FIFA is that despite me not playing much of it throughout my life, I do know that it has had consistently great soundtracks, and they're ones that evoke the sound and feel of football without even having to have heard them whilst playing FIFA. And that is a talent that very few game series can claim to possess. The right piece of music used in the right way both solidifies a game, your experiences of it, and the song itself, and it'd be very hard to argue that EA haven't had a knack for getting that right for some time now. And to prove that, we're going to have a little traipse through the many songs that have been included on FIFA's soundtracks. So I think the best way to go through this is in chronological order from oldest to newest. We're not going to go through every single game because there's too many to do, but I've picked out some ones that I think are worth having a look at, and that's based on ones that my friends have recommended, ones that I remember being particularly good, and also going to look at FIFA 22 just to kind of see where it's at in its most recent iteration. Putting on my blue light filtering glasses because I had an eye test yesterday, and everything's good except for the fact that I have quite a lot of eye strain at the moment. So we're going to start with 2004, because this is one of my flatmate's favourite versions of the game, and he's got a lot of songs from that he remembers, you know, very fondly, and I mean immediately. I mean, look at this. We've got Jerk It Out by the Caesars, we've got Asian Dove Foundation, Goldfrapp. I mean, for God's sake, if you haven't listened to Goldfrapp or don't remember them, you almost certainly will, to be honest, because, like, they did so many solid fucking classics. Kings of Leon before they became irritating and unlistenable. Bit Paul Van Dyke and Radiohead made it on there. I mean, that is mad. You can see here some older songs do make it in. So Town Called Malice by The Jam and Fool's Gold by Stone Roses. That is a FIFA song. That hits the moniker of FIFA song bang on. 2004 delivered then. Solid stuff there. Let's go to 2006. I mean, Helicopter by Block Party is just one of the greatest songs of the 2000s. Black and White Town by Dove, it is Doves. Hard-Fi and Jamiroquai on there. LCD Sound System, now that, look at that. Oh, what a banger. Not so much a banger, that Oasis track, but, you know, we can move with that. And Röyksopp as well making it in on there. I've not heard that song before, but, like, it's just brilliant. Let's go up to 2010. This is where I started to pay attention to the music. It just look at the variety though. There's stuff that's not in English. It's such a diverse mix of music. Bit of early Major Lazer in though. Hold the Line. Hold the Line is a banger. Major Lazer really, I don't know if they get the credit they deserve. Bit of Peter Bjorn and John, Nothing to Worry About. That's a really good song. Love a bit of The Enemy. Wyclef Jean as well. I mean, you know, it's such a good mix. You can sense the energy that comes through. I mean, most things by Wyclef Jean have a lot of Caribbean and Latin influence. You know, it's a solid choice for this sort of music. Let's go up to 2011. Odessa by Caribou. That's one of my favourite songs included on any FIFA soundtrack. I listen to that a lot when I'm playing Football Manager. Dum Dum Girls, That Only Takes One Night. What a fucking tune that was. Rhinestone Eyes by Gorillaz. Obviously, FIFA 11 came out just after the summer that Gorillaz had released Plastic Beach and were just taking over the whole world yet again. And Ladytron again, more LCD Sound System. I Can Change as a tune, my god. And Splitting the Atom by Massive Attack. That was fucking lord, what a tune. Tighten Up by the Black Keys. That's obviously not just a song that was popular because of FIFA. The Black Keys were one of the artists of the moment. They've got Two Door in here as well, and We Are Scientists. I mean, 2011 really was a big one. Just gonna move 1 year up to 2012 now because I was really into it at this sort of time of my life. Chase and Status, no problem. 2011 was their year. That's when they released No More Idols, and they were really taking over the EDM scene in the UK. No Problem is such a ruthless song. Foster the People getting in there. This was a little bit before they released Pumped Up Kicks, but like you can tell they were, you know, EA were on it in terms of what sort of artists were going to come up with this. Group Love. Oh, I remember them. Fucking hell. Little Dragon making an appearance with Nightlight. This is the song that defined 2011 for me. Punching in a Dream by the Naked and Famous. I don't know. I think that's about as close to the ultimate FIFA song, I think, as I could imagine. I just always associate football and FIFA with that song. Gonna go 1 year on again to FIFA 13 because we're in the fucking mood for it. More Block Party on there. Bastille creeping in. I don't think I ever gave Bastille a chance, really, and I didn't have much interest in doing so. I don't really think I've missed out on that, to be honest. This is the one I remember the most. Professional Griefers by Deadmau5 and Gerard Way. I was deep in my Deadmau5 phase at this point. I remember my mate saying when he got FIFA 12, like, Professional Griefers is on FIFA, and I was like, I feel validated. People know who Deadmau5 is beyond just, like, the internet communities that I spend all my time with. Bit of Metric in there as well. I'd really like to see that. Big Mouth by Santa Gold coming in there as well. I really like Santa Gold stuff. Don't Say Nothing by The Heavy. I remember liking that a lot. Wretch 32. I had a little moment when I was really into him. More Two Door Cinema Club. Once again, another band that I was really into. That is just another great soundtrack, to be honest. You can't really go wrong. So I'm going to jump up to FIFA 19 now to kind of see what the more recent versions of the game have included. And, I mean, good lord, look at this. There's so many good tunes on here already. Love a bit of bass on there. Billie Eilish making her way through in 2018. I mean, that was a moment in time when Billie Eilish was rising through the ranks and starting to become someone really, really popular. Bit of Bugsy Malone there as well. Jesus fucking God. I know that a lot of this video is about saying that FIFA gets it right every single time with its soundtracks, but this is one time it did not. It's a fucking dreadful song. I fucking hate Feels Like Summer. I genuinely, it's the only time I think that Childish Gambino has really genuinely missed. That is the kind of song for people who retweet stats about climate change on Twitter and think that they're making a difference. It's like, oh my god, you know, things are just so difficult, you know. And then they'll go and fucking, you know, tweet that on their iPhone without any, like, they won't connect the dots. It's fucking dreadful. It's so performative. It really annoys me. Let's move on for that. Courtney Barnett, there we are. Crystal Fire's making another views. Death Cab for Cutie. I mean, good god, the taste. The taste in that. The fact that people were being introduced to Death Cab thanks to this game. I mean, that's absolutely incredible. Jungle coming on there, Beat 54. I mean, anyone who's listened to Jungle will happily attest that they were destined to become a FIFA band. Not just FIFA songs, but a FIFA band. Everything they do fits into this game so, so well. Koji Radical here too in FIFA 19. I mean, I love Koji Radical, but once again, he was still on the rise at this sort of time. He wasn't as big as he is now. They're so on it with this sort of music. Play God by Sam Fender. This was before I even knew who Sam Fender was. And he was releasing singles in kind of the run-up to Hypersonic Missiles, which came out the year after this game was released. But, you know, once again, they were on it early with these artists, and they knew the kind of vibe that was going to be on there. 2019 was a good soundtrack. And to round this off, we're going to go and look at the FIFA 22 soundtrack to see what's in the latest version of the game. Moving straight in, there's RD with Oliver Twist. I think I've heard that. I'm not quite convinced on RD. I don't know if I like the whole the Body remix from last year, which had like everyone under the sun on it. I don't know, I kind of liked it. I wasn't too sure about what it was trying to say. I don't know, it might just not be my kind of thing, to be honest. But it's good to see him being featured on here because he is immensely popular. Church is making a move on here with Good Girls. Churches are a great band. Give them a listen, please. Jungle, talk about it. I mean, once again, like I said before, Jungle are as close to a FIFA band, I think, as we'll ever get. War Outside by Koji Radical featuring Lexa Moore. I love that song. Fear No Man by Little Sims. I mean, Sometimes I Might Be Introvert was the album of the year for me for last year. That's a fucking banger. Lil Kana as well. If he doesn't get an inclusion on a FIFA soundtrack, then what? Is there a god? Is there any hope in this world? Gliding by Parcelio and Slow Tie. That was such a good song. I remember it got loads of airtime on Six Music last year, and I was just like, this is such a banger. They need to do more work together. Get You Down by Sam Fender. That's a real contrast to his last appearance, because Play God from FIFA 19 is a much slower kind of sort of menu music kind of song, whereas Get You Down is a much more energetic kind of sort of festival banger. Very much looking forward to seeing him later this year at Truck Festival. If you're going, you'll see me. My glass making noises. If you're at Truck Festival later this year, you're going to see me on someone's shoulders at least once during his set. My god. Yard Act as well. I'm not on the hype for Yard Act, but once again, it's good that they're being included in here, so I think that kind of brings it all together, to be honest. The main thing that's so interesting with all of this, though, is not only the repeated artists that we see on there who consistently make it on there, and I think you can definitely ascribe that kind of FIFA song or FIFA vibe descriptive to their music, but it's also the fact that there are so many artists who appear on these soundtracks maybe a year or two before they really make it into the mainstream, and they're very tasteful choices as well. It's pretty clear that it's not just a sort of commercial interest to promote new artists. It's about finding genuinely great new music. You know, this is something that radio stations, that Spotify, online music magazines spend so much of their time trying to curate and find and, work with. And then here is a game series that does it year on year and, are completely separate from any of the music industry that I just kind of mentioned, yet have such a knack for finding great new artists and great new material. Like, that is a talent. That is a really special talent. And in particular, the way that it introduces so many of those artists to audiences that might never ever come across them. That's a really special thing to have, you know? So yeah, back to the main video. It's pretty clear then that the music used in FIFA's soundtracks has been consistently brilliant, and that they've had a particular talent for finding new and upcoming artists before they break through to the mainstream. But there is something more going on with the music being used here, more so than those songs just being included on a FIFA soundtrack. All of these tracks have a similar vibe and attitude to one another, which in itself is another form of branding for the series. Sybil Pettis, the senior music supervisor at EA, describes that vibe as celebratory and rhythmic, which I completely concur with, and those descriptors capture why the songs that end up on these soundtracks make it onto the list. They match the atmosphere that football creates, the energy and excitement that comes from watching it being played, and often have a sense of occasion to them, which in turn reflects the significance of the sport to its fans. The music is a capturing of that energy and those emotions, and in turn it's why the phrase FIFA song makes so much sense, because it allows us to identify songs with those same qualities. But not only is there an attitude and a vibe that can ascribe music with a phrase such as a FIFA song, these soundtracks also reflect the chronological significance created by football. All sport has its history depicted through significant dates, times when one athlete or team beat another, moments when something about the sport changed forever, and football's popularity means that that chronological element is particularly pertinent for its fans. In turn, that has led to FIFA's soundtracks becoming more than just pieces of nostalgia, but rather reflections of the times that they came from. They capture both what football's soundtrack was in the past, as well as what people wanted to associate with the sport. And the evolution in the kinds of genres being included that we saw when we were looking through those past soundtracks shows this. It is not a coincidence that the kind of music used by football broadcasters for their programming and idents is pretty much the same as what you find in FIFA's soundtracks. This is the definitive record of what football sounds like, and unsurprisingly the marketing teams of Sky and BT and the BBC want to reflect that so that they sound relevant and appealing. Ultimately, however, there is an even greater success that FIFA soundtracks have been able to pull off, and it's one that we've been hinting at throughout this whole video. The FIFA games have been able to foster a music culture where there wasn't one. Now, before anyone gets up in arms to defend Sweet Caroline, or Three Lions, or You'll Never Walk Alone, or World in Motion, which is the greatest football song that's ever been written, and I will not be taking further questions. It's not that football songs and football chants are important, it's just that their scope is limited. Everyone loves a bit of This Time for Africa or Waving Flag, of course. Meanwhile, Dario G's Carnaval de Paris, which was the official World Cup 1998 song, has gone on to become its own football chant. But, given that the only playlists of songs you can directly call football music are compilations of tracks sometimes released decades apart, this does not constitute a current or active culture. But with FIFA releasing a new game and thus a new soundtrack every year, it is able to play that role as football's music curator. It basically rocks up every autumn and says, hey, here is the list of this year's football music. And in turn, as it associates those artists and those songs with football, it gives them an audience inherently associated with the sport. There's an overwhelmingly positive energy to being included on these soundtracks, something that confirms the ability of a song to be seen as worthy enough to be put in the game. The wide recognition from fans of the game of the power that this represents gilds FIFA's ability to be the definer of a football music culture. And for all the justified maligning that people have for EA, which I certainly support, it's not exactly like they've ever missed the mark with FIFA's soundtracks. More than that, they also act as a discography of popular music from the time, countering the more explicitly commercial intentions of things like the Now CDs and most of the highly advertised playlists on streaming services. As a final thought, I want to argue that FIFA's soundtracks possess more cultural significance and power than any other video game soundtrack. I did a lot of thinking when I was writing this video about whether all this was just nostalgia based, and whether the love that I had for these songs was simply because they remind me or hark back to a time in the past. But given how little I've actually played FIFA, and yet how much I've been interested in the music that's included within those games, I think it reflects the fact that they do have a very wide cultural reach. The only other game that I think you could compare in terms of cultural reach is Grand Theft Auto, but the music used for the in-game radio stations is rarely updated and certainly doesn't have the same intention as FIFA. That's something that I hinted at earlier with the art form of great video game soundtracks, and for me, there's a balance that you have to strike between wanting to create a suitable atmosphere, which I think GTA does very well in its blend of old and new material, and wanting to focus on new music to appear relevant and fresh, which a lot of other games with soundtracks do. FIFA manages to do something quite remarkable, where it is both a showcase for new music and is still able to create that atmosphere without having to bank on older, more well-known tunes, and to continue doing that every single year is no mean feat. It ultimately proves that their quality for cultivation is about far more than just creating the atmosphere for playing a football simulator. It's about creating a musical zeitgeist that captures the world of football. And even if the power of who decides what goes into that zeitgeist is only in the control of one game developer, until a worthy alternative emerges, the FIFA soundtrack will continue to define the football soundtrack. Thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed it. This is part of my ongoing journey to reclaim football for myself, and I'm very glad that you're a part of it. Going through these old soundtracks was an absolute hoot. It brought back a lot of positive memories from parts of my life that I don't always have, you know, the most sort of rosy outlook on. And it really is a reminder of just how good the music in these games are. I mean, I can't understate it that much. I know we didn't go too much into kind of analysing the actual songs being used here, because I don't think that's really part of the intention with the video. But like, there's a lot that could be written about each of the songs and artists that have been included in the games over the years. I've got more football content coming in the near future, some other ideas and stuff that I'm really excited to share with you and explore myself. And in the meantime, if you want to see some more football video stuff from me, you can go and check out my video on the stanification of football, looking at how stan culture is embracing football for the first time. And with that, we'll leave it there. Check out my other videos on music stuff as well if you're interested in the music side of things. Take care wherever you are, and I'll catch you in the next one. Outfit check, baby. It's the first one of 2022 and we're keeping it clean, easy, and uncomplicated. This is an Adidas crew neck that I got for Christmas. Thank you very much, Santa. I love the kind of just minimalist logo and ease with which you can put this with anything and make your outfit look really just put together and smart. Pairing that with, hang on a minute, I'm gonna get this up. Pairing that with my, fucking hell. That was not an idea to do. I'm just gonna do this a much easier way. Let me just point the camera down, that might be better. Pairing that with some blue jeans. These are the H&M ones that I got from a charity shop for £2. Absolute miracle. The cheapest jeans that I buy are the ones that always last the longest. I always get them from a charity shop and I always keep them for years. I've had these now, I think, for 2 years, and they are not going anywhere anytime soon. I'm still kind of working on my aesthetic and vibe for 2022 in terms of fashion, but these kind of sort of solid staples with sort of a mix of semi-sportswear and casual jean kind of things is piloting my way through, you know. There's more to come and more things to show you in new videos in terms of what I wear, so stay tuned for that. That's quite enough.